This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day, carefully crafted for you by humans. So meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fully Managed by Penji podcast, the podcast where we discuss marketing and business tips to help assist you on your business journey. I'm your host, Shannon, Penji's partnership coordinator, and I'm joined here today with a very special guest, Bob Bentz from PurpleGator. Thank you so much for coming on with me today. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Looking forward to it, Shannon.
Thank you so much. And I love the PurpleGator in the background. I know I said this in our call before, but it's absolutely fantastic, and uh, it's a great mascot to have.
Absolutely.
So could you start by saying a little bit about how this business started, kind of how you got involved, and also I would love to know more about the mascot, like where that came from, and all the story behind that. That would be great.
Okay. Well, Shannon, I became an entrepreneur while still in my 20s and started a telecom company. That company is now 35 years old and was very successful and still functions today. We grew it from a startup with no outside funding to 62.2 million in annual sales and offices in 5 countries. So a great success story. Unfortunately, what happened over the years is this darn thing called the internet came along. And because of that internet thing, what we used to get like 16 cents for, I can get an eighth of a penny today. So based on that, around 2018, I had to pivot a little bit to continue to live the lifestyle I had grown accustomed to and started the marketing agency PurpleGator. Now, you asked about PurpleGator, which is something that almost everybody asks about. And if you remember back to the year 2002, there was a phenomena in the United States called downloadable ringtones. And back then, when your mobile phone rang, it was the same for everybody. And then we started to customize our ringtones so that your favorite song could play when you got a call from your girlfriend or your mom or whoever it is. So you could customize your phone with its own unique ringtones. I started 2 brands online that were selling ringtones, and the third brand was going to be called PurpleGator. But in 2006, 4 years after the start of that business, I ended up selling it to a publicly traded company in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and never needed the domain. So the domain just sat in my GoDaddy account for 12 years until I had a reason to bring it live, and hence PurpleGator is a marketing agency today.
That's beautiful. I love the mention of the ringtones. I have not heard the mention of ringtones in so long. I I remember my mom having one that was it was so annoying, and I remember it going off in church a couple times where it was I don't know if it's just a sheer little dude going ring, ring, and he's just yelling ring, and that's the ringtone. It was
Yeah, most of the ringtones when it first started were hip hop.
Mhm.
So it was our biggest sellers were 50 Cent and Beyonce back in the early 2000s. And it really evolved over the years from someone who it sounded originally like a person playing the piano with one finger, who thought could be right. And eventually you got the actual, what we called master tones, which was the actual singing of the song by the artist.
Well, that does sound very early 2000s. It's you mentioned 2002. I was 2 during 2002, which is incredible. I do remember my sister and my mom's flip phones though, however, and they had some pretty good ringtones. So can you tell us, you briefly mentioned the growth of your agency, but could you kind of talk about different things that led to that growth? Like maybe if it was just happenstance or things that you actively did that you think contributed greatly to it?
Yeah, for sure. Well, we started in earnest in 2018 while running the telecom company as well. So most employees work on both ends, and we got off to a great start. I got a 650 store national retail store chain, and also a Fortune 500 company that was in the real estate industry. So we got off to a really good start in those first 2 years. And then in 2020, the pandemic hit. And I literally lost 60% of our business overnight. Within a week, everyone had paused almost entirely. And at the time, I said, okay, how am I going to make it through this? I mean, this is unprecedented. No one had ever been through a pandemic like this before. So we decided that we would pivot because the thought was, well, with everyone getting sick and an aging population, nursing was going to be in greater demand than ever. And nurses have always been in big demand, but I figured it was going to be a greater demand than ever, and we would recruit nurses for hospitals. And we did okay with recruiting nurses for hospitals, but we soon found that nurses were not really in the business to make an extra buck. They were in it more so to give back to the community and that kind of thing. And so getting them to jump from hospital A to hospital B was a little more difficult. But while doing the ringtones, we got referred to somebody else who needed truck drivers, actually at O'Reilly Auto Parts. And we started recruiting for truck drivers, and that has actually become a big niche of ours at this point. We have recruited truck drivers not only for O'Reilly Auto Parts, but also for AutoZone, Papa John's Pizza, and Federal Express, to name a few. With that recruitment business really got us through the pandemic. We didn't grow during that time, but at least we stayed afloat. And then as soon as the vaccines came out, we found brands started spending money again. And not only that, during that 2-year period, I concentrated a lot more on lead generation so that we could generate more inbound leads for the company. And we had some great conversations that didn't do a whole lot during the pandemic. But again, as soon as the vaccines came out, they started spending money. And that led us to where we are today. And over the past year, we've been very honored to be members of the Inc. 5000, the 1,496th fastest growing company in North America, the Philly 100, where we were named the 11th fastest growing company in the Philadelphia Metro, and also Financial Times, which named us the 123rd fastest growing company in North America.
That is an incredible growth story. I don't hear a lot like that often. That is absolutely unfathomable. I So you mentioned about niching. Do you think it's something that's important for agencies to do, or do you think sometimes it's not necessary? Because it's something I think that comes up in agency discussions a lot of whether that's I don't know, I think everyone has different opinions on whether that's a good strategy to do when you're either starting an agency or you're trying to kind of grow your agency in a specific direction. Do you think that's something that's important, or do you think that it depends?
Yeah, I think niching is important, but it's not the end all. So I fall somewhere in the middle of that discussion. The great thing about niching is if you gather some expertise in a particular industry, you can go get a non-competitive company in another geographic area or one that just doesn't compete with the customer that you already have. And it definitely helps you get in the door because you have that experience. Now, I don't think any or most agencies anyway wake up one day and say, hey, I'm going to go into truck driver recruitment. You kind of get lucky and fall into it and you have some success. And then, when you have success in any niche, whether that's aesthetics retailers, which is another niche of ours, whether it's truck driver recruitment, you need to exploit that because you've had success and that'll be a door opener for other clients.
I definitely would resonate with that. I think that it depends on the agency for sure, but I think that if you find something that you're good at, then you should definitely continue to do it. and run with it. I just talked to someone the other day whose niche is plumbing, and I had never seen an agency that was one so niche down, like having a very that's a very particular thing, whereas a lot of people will have an industry, like an entire that is kind of an umbrella of things. Um, but that was and it's been working for him. I mean, like there's I have not heard of another agency that specifically does plumbing, so I think that when you also have such a specific niche that no one else does, and that's something that you specialize in, you cannot only guarantee that you are the best because other people aren't doing it. So even if you're, I don't know how great this guy is. I do like he has really great funny ads, but even if he's not the best, he's the only person that people hear about. So I think that's also something that's important is people will trust you and you kind of get credibility from having having a niche that no one else does as well.
Agreed.
So, okay, so what is your strategy for gaining clients? And you said that you kind of focused on lead generation during a time where you needed them the most, but now in your current cycle, how do you what's the strategy that you use to obtain clients?
Yeah, I think, maybe what we do differently than most agencies is we pick up the phone and call people. I get hammered day after day from people hitting me up on LinkedIn with a series of 5 messages or emails and that kind of thing. And uh, especially younger salespeople are, I call it heavy phone. They're afraid to pick up the phone and get rejected. And, I liken it to baseball. In baseball, you're going to fail as a hitter more times than you're going to succeed. So, if your batting average is 300, that means you're going to fail 7 times out of 10. But every time you fail, you get that much closer to getting a hit. So I like to look at it that way. You're going to fail more times than you're going to succeed. But I think people appreciate people who pick up the phone now and call them.
I agree. I really liked the personal touch that agencies add to their work and their outreach specifically because I think people are more inclined to answer. I think that they feel more cared about. And I think that it's just a way to show that you're a human and there's not a robot calling you or there's not a robot messaging you. I think that the biggest problem with LinkedIn outreach, specifically that you mentioned, is that there's a lot of bots on LinkedIn. There's a lot of people selling you things. There's a lot of people that, if someone's reaching out to you, they almost 100% want something from you. And that's what outreach is. I mean, most people do want something from them, but I think that being more personal about it, people are more inclined to, want to use your service and want to trust you. And LinkedIn is not the greatest place. It does work for some people and I understand that, but even I don't even know. We sometimes do outreach on LinkedIn and it's the least successful in comparison to just email outreach too. I think that what you said about numbers is something that's really important because the more outreach that you make, like, even if your success rate is like 2 to 5%, if you send out 500 emails a week, that's still 2 to 5% of 500, which is still enough. And so I think that's something I definitely agree with everything that you're saying. I think that it is you want your agency to stand out. So personalization is something that's really important. And calls I don't hear a lot anymore. So that is definitely unique, but I'm happy that you're sticking with it because
Yeah. I mean, and think about this. The number one thing that you want as a client is someone who's going to work hard for you, right? Because you don't know when you hire a new agency if they're any good or not. But reason people leave agencies is because they don't feel loved anymore. They don't feel like they're important anymore. Well, who are you more likely to feel is going to work hard for you? Someone who called you 5 times, or someone who sent you a chain of 5 different messages on LinkedIn? It should be a no-brainer.
no, I definitely agree. I don't know. It really, Sometimes it's creepy when someone calls you 5 times. I remember going on a first date and then someone called me, the same person called me 5 times 2 days later, and I was like, too much.
Well, we're not talking dating here today.
My boss feels like everything translates to dating. Marketing is a segue to dating, and he gives me lectures all the time. It's very fun. But yeah, no, it's definitely different. And someone calling you 5 times, if they're trying to offer you a service is completely different than someone that might just be creepy. So I definitely agree. So okay. So you have a customer and say they are unhappy with, and we hope this never happens, say that they're unhappy with the work that you're doing for them. Say that objectively you're doing great work, but they're not happy with the end result. What do you do in that situation?
Okay, change course. You know, I tell our staff every week, and they get tired of me saying this. You need to get better every week, every month. Because one of the great things about mobile and digital is the amount of data that we acquire. It's not like buying a billboard and then trying to determine how effective that billboard is because you have no feedback from a billboard, right? But when it comes to mobile and digital marketing, you get feedback. You get a report card every day. And there's many different KPIs that you need to adjust, both on an interim level and on an ultimate level. So in almost every case, the ultimate KPI is what? It's sales, right? So many agencies go into their monthly review meetings and talk about the wonderful click-through rate that they get and that kind of thing. The customer couldn't care less what the click-through rate is. They only care that their sales didn't go up since they hired. So I think if we look at the data and we make strategic decisions based on that data, then we can pivot with some knowledge that we're just not, coming up with a new plan. We're coming up with a new plan that's based on data. And, I find all the time, and when I interview someone for a new job on the production team, and they tell me they want to be in this business because they're highly creative. That's wonderful that you're creative. We need creative people. And then my next question is, are you any good at math? And when they say to me, oh no, I really hate math, they're not a fit. They're not going to be able to analyze the data and improve for my clients. And you got to be creative and mathematical. And that's kind of an A-B, brain that not everyone has. But without both, it's going to be tough for you to be successful in this industry.
Do you think that people have the potential to pair up? You get one person that's good at math and one creative, and you partner them together?
Yeah, I guess if you have enough company, if you're a Madison Avenue size agency, yes, that probably works. There's probably specialists that work only on the data side. But if you have less than 50 people in your agency, I think everyone needs to wear both hats.
Yeah, agencies are definitely, smaller agencies specifically are definitely wearers of many hats. Everyone in there is doing a lot of different jobs, and I think that that's still something that it's kind of nice. I think sometimes it makes you a better agency overall because everyone that is at least there when you grow, everyone that's been there from the beginning knows the ins and the outs of all parts of it, which I think is the what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, the bright side about, growing from the start, from being a startup, is the fact that you get experience in all different sectors that you maybe didn't have experience in previously, and then in maybe you mess up. Well, editing, take that out. Maybe you mess up a little bit, but you learn a lot from that. And I think that working in a business that's growing is a learning experience, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, for sure. When you start out, everybody does everything. And, you have a new task, you bring it up at the meeting when you only have 5, 6 people and say, okay, who can handle this, right? Because everyone needs to do everything. But when you graduate to the point where we are like 23 people, okay, not big, but not small either, when you get to that point, then you're at the point where you have specialists. And people always say to me, okay, hey, why would I hire you as an agency and pay you, $5,000 a month to do my work when I could just hire someone to do that? And I always tell them, you absolutely can hire someone to do that. But, if they're working on pay per click and SEO and web development and everything else, they're probably only spending 2 to 3 hours a week on each of those things. When you come to an agency, you have someone doing pay per click who's doing it 40 plus hours per week. So they get pretty good at it. And you're never going to get that good at it doing it 2 hours a week.
Yes, exactly. I think that's kind of what Penji is supposed to do. I mean, like, you can have a lot of the people that use us have one in-house graphic designer, and that person can only handle so much, and that's like just being human. But our service is to be able to provide that. And there's multiple people working on it at a time. We have like a quick turnaround rate, and that's you know, an agency is quite literally that. We're supposed to be able to require a service that um maybe would be really difficult for one person to do. It's supposed to be much more efficient, and that that's what we strive to be good at.
Mm.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, okay, so we talked about customers, we talked about, if there's problems. What about how do you communicate with customers throughout the process? This is something that I think is so crucial for a good client experience. So I was wondering how you go about that.
Yeah, I believe in keeping the account managers as the face of the company to the client. Yes, the production people do join in, but I want the production people centered on, improving the SEO rankings and making the changes to the website and analyzing the pay-per-click statistics. So everything funnels through the account manager, and those are the people that have the greatest relationship with the client. So I believe in investing in those folks. We're big enough to have those specialists, but small enough that, you can pick up the phone and call the president of the company or the COO anytime.
So you don't want to be the face of the company.
Oh, I am the company. I mean, I'm the one who was employee number one, and I'll be employee number last.
You don't want the PurpleGator to be the face of the company?
Well, he might be cuter than me and everything, but it matters me.
That's good. That's good. You should be confident in your work and be proud of it. It's very important. The gator didn't do much. He just sat there and was a really good mascot.
Right.
So unique one. So, communicating, we got that down. So this is all a segue. We're leading through the customer process. So, what is your strategy for then? Okay, so referrals, really important in our business, of course. How do you kind of guarantee that you're going to get that?
Referrals are things that even the most polished sales people don't do enough asking for. We always are so happy to get the client, and we don't want to offend the client and ask them. But of course, it's much easier to close a deal with a referral than someone you cold called or you got a lead from online. So, yeah, it's definitely something that you need to do a better job of. I myself need to do a better job of it as well. So that's an important part of what we do. I always make sure that if someone refers someone to me, that they get a nice handwritten letter, whether we close them or not. So I'm old school. I'll put a stamp on an envelope and send it to them and thank them. And they may even get a gift in the mail sometimes.
That's really sweet, actually. I I've actually talked to a couple agencies that do like personalization like that, and I think I really admire that because it shows even if you're growing or you're even a larger agency that you still care about that attention to detail and making sure that all your clients are cared for. And I think that's not only more likely to get you a referral or get you a good review, but it's also it leaves a good taste in a client's mouth, which I think is always important for I don't just morale in the company, and then also just for how they speak of you, even if they're not referring you to someone else or doing it for that specific reason, but the fact that they are they just have nice things to say. And it's always good to have nice things to say.
And you need to get out and meet people personally. Um, Sooner or later, no matter who we are, no matter how good we are, uh, you're going to goof up or you're going to have a campaign that isn't as successful as the previous ones. And if you have that personal relationship with the client, if you played golf with them, gone out and had lunch with them, they're a lot less likely to fire you than if you don't have personal
They
relationships.
know
So,
you.
yeah, I find a lot of younger agencies today don't go out and meet their clients, and I think that's a mistake. You got to go out and shake hands and have lunch.
The amount of people that I end up in contact with through different outreach measures with this company that I find out have met my bosses and been out with them. It's so funny. Because I don't know that they have a previous connection, and then I find out they're like, "Oh yeah, I met them." Like, and I think that's incredible. Like it's nice to find out that they're doing that because I know I knew that they were doing it relatively, but to find out through customers that they recognize them and they're happy to be involved in different things and stuff. I love hearing that.
Yeah, especially since the pandemic, we're more chained to our homes. We work hybrid. Some of us don't ever go into an office. Okay. And it is so rewarding when you go out and meet people. And it's a great change too, because, I'm working out of my home most days, as is most people in our company. And boy, sometimes at night, I'm like, I got to go somewhere. I don't even know, but I'm going somewhere.
Me at the end of work every day. Like I need to go on a walk. Sometimes I'll just take a stroll around the neighborhood. I'm like, I need to get out of a desk chair. Even if I'm just cooking, just need to leave the house. So what's your favorite thing to do with clients then if you go out with them?
Uh, I don't know that it really matters what you do with them. Uh, yeah, but I think the thing you do the most is, go have a drink after work or have lunch together. And, when you do that, it uncovers other opportunities that you wouldn't have otherwise known of. Because people start small talking, you learn that, maybe they volunteer for a nonprofit and that nonprofit needs some marketing help. Or maybe they own some vacation homes or that they rent out or something like that. You find out other opportunities that you wouldn't find out in your normal monthly meetings because they let their guard down and they start to talk about different things like that. So, uh, whether you're going out to lunch with them or, playing 18 holes with them, one thing about golf, I'll tell you, if you've played golf with someone, you will know them the rest of your life. You'll remember you played golf and you'll learn a lot about them during that 5-hour golf out.
There is a lot of standing around.
The lot of leaving around, and I really encourage women to play more golf because it's a big disadvantage for women in business, especially in sales, when they don't participate in that because there's so many company outings and functions and fundraisers that if they don't golf, they don't participate. So I really encourage women that are in sales and marketing to take up the sport.
What if I'm awful at golf?
Go to the driving range and practice. They will be well, because most of the golf outings that you do are scrambles, which means that you just take the best shot of the four. So the fact that you hit it into the woods won't make a big difference.
Interesting. Okay, that's important. To note. I know both my dad and my stepdad play golf, and they're both awful. I hope they don't see this, but they do it all the time for business related matters, and
For sure.
I guess it doesn't matter that they're awful. So it's as long as they're playing and they're talking.
For-
Well, a great note to end on is golf. I think that's take time to talk to your customers. I think that's a really great note to end on, actually. Not golf itself, but being able to, make your customers have like a personal experience with you. And I think that they'll all really appreciate that. So yeah, thank you for that advice.
You're welcome.
And thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. And I think I learned a lot, and that's always the goal for me too. And I hope that the audience will learn just as much as I have.
Well, thank you, Shannon. And if I can put in a small plug for myself at this
Sure.
point, I've written a book called Relevance Raises Response. It was written originally in 2016, and the new edition, the second edition, is out now. And you can purchase that on Amazon if you want. And it's all about the world of mobile marketing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
Maybe I'll take a look. But thank you so much. And everyone at home, don't forget to like and subscribe to see more professionals like Bob on the show. Really appreciate you watching.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend, and of course, subscribe.